Welcome to the 2025 school year. My name is Connor Lewis and I'll be your Smartboard coach this semester. My goal is to make your transition to using this new technology as smooth and stress-free as possible. In today's training, we'll walk you through a variety of key skills and functions to help you become more confident and proficient with your Smartboard. So let's get started. Before we dive in, if you haven't already logged into your board using the Google Doc that was shared last week and linked in the slides, please take a moment to do that now. Once you're logged in, feel free to reference this video at your own pace, pause, rewind, or rewatch any parts to help clarify the topics we'll cover. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. One thing that I do want to make you aware of before we dive into the Smartboard is just the cleaning process. And so the screen is not going to do well if we spray it with any cleaners or things like that. That's going to mess with the sensor. So what I encourage staff to do if you're trying to clean your board at all, whether it be at the end of the day or whether it be between class periods, is to make sure you have a microfiber cloth. And all you need to do is just kind of wipe down the board, and that will get rid of any of that grease and residue that you don't want on your screen there and just make it a little bit easier. But this is going to be how you clean your board. Don't spray it with any form of disinfectants or other sprays out there that could mess with the sensors and ultimately cause some problems down the road with your Smartboard. I do want to point out on the side here just some of the different options you have to work with. Obviously you have your power, volume up, volume down, pause, mute. These are where those cables connect in for both the USB-B as well as the HDMI cord that should be connected to a device. And then you also have some additional options tucked back in here that you can use to plug in. And then the final thing that I want to talk about is just underneath your Smartboard. If we move this out, and it's a little bit tricky to see, but there should be a switch underneath the board that allows you to do what is considered a hard reset. So that will completely turn off your board, and then if you flip that switch back, it will power it back up. You don't need to worry about doing a hard reset or turning your board off at the end of the night, as the district will do that. But if you are experiencing some just technical issues with your Smartboard, that might be a good strategy to see if that fixes a problem. So if something's not loading or it's just kind of lagging, I would recommend doing a hard reset. Again, it's just a little switch here at the bottom. It's right next to where the board gets connected to the cable that plugs it into the outlet. And if you just flip that once and then flip it back the other way, it should do a hard reset and should allow that board to hopefully start functioning a little bit better. Just like a phone, we want to protect our information so that other people aren't looking through whatever's on there. We also want to make sure that our information remains private, or that students aren't messing around with our Smartboards. And so what I encourage every staff member to do is, when you're finished using your board, whether it be for the class period or for the day, is on the side here. As we mentioned earlier, we have those different options to work with. We're going to go ahead and hit that power button, and so what that's going to do is it'll turn the light kind of an orangish color, and if we push it back again, it'll turn it back to that white, and we get this lock screen. So this prevents anyone from doing anything on the screen without either entering the PIN, or eventually every staff member is going to have that scan card that's going to allow you to pull up your Smartboard and information a little bit faster by just scanning it there. But if you go ahead and type in your PIN, each person should have that set up, then it will take you to your screen here, just protecting your device from any unwanted individuals that might be trying to access this. Okay, and so then when you're done and you're in your screen, you'll simply just hit that power button again, and that will send it back to the lock screen so that no one can access your information. All right, one function that a lot of you are going to use on your Smartboard is just the generic whiteboard feature. So if we go ahead and hit this plus icon, we should be presented with this screen here, and it might take just a minute for it to load. And then once it does load, the screen should look like this. So it's very user-friendly, and I just want to walk you through kind of a couple of tips that you can use. The first one being the pens that we have. And so when we go and we write on the board, it will write generically, but if we want to switch up our color, you can see this little button here, and we can click this, and then whatever light pops up, that's going to be what color it writes with. So blue is blue, green is green, white is black, and then we should also have a red on there as well. You can also change the pen setting. So if we were to go in here, right, and let's say I wanted to change it so instead of me writing, it's actually going to come up in more of a font option. I could write that C on there, and then it's going to recognize that here in a second and should make that into a C, and I can move that around if needed. You can also play around with just the, if you want more colors, there's some more color options there, the size of the stroke of the line. And then one feature that I think a lot of teachers can benefit from is if we go ahead and switch it up to this touch option, this now turns your finger into the pen, and this will be beneficial for teachers that might have interactive activities where multiple students will be writing on the board. So I could have 2 students writing at the same time on there, and just makes life easier. I also do want to mention the eraser. So you have a couple of eraser options. You have the back of the pen, which can kind of tidy up some of those smaller mistakes that you make. You have the obvious eraser here to erase items on your board. And then the final one is if you hit this 3-dot option here and hit this little broom icon, that's going to wipe away any of the stuff on your board that you don't want. A few other things that I wanted to mention just regarding the whiteboard. If we hit this plus icon here, this is going to allow us to add another page on our screen. And this can be anything from just a blank page, or if you would like, right, you can look through here and just see a lot of the different options that you have to choose from. There's definitely something there that can help solve whatever issue. Maybe you want a Venn diagram, right, and you can pull that up on your screen and then have students write in that, or you can write in that. And that's just another feature that you have with the smartboard here. Anything in the smartboard that you, or on the whiteboard I should say, that you are done with for the day, that automatically gets saved into your Lumio account, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But if you were doing an activity with the Venn diagram, right, and you're writing in the text, I'll show you later in the video where that pops up in Lumio, so that if you need to use that at a later date, you can. But that should get you pretty well versed in the whiteboard feature of the smartboard as you have students coming in to your classes later this week, and especially as we hit the ground running for the rest of the semester here. Alright, the next item that I want to talk about is your input. So this is going to allow you to switch back and forth whether you want to use the smartboard or whether you want to use your desktop or laptop. It's totally up to you on that. One thing I do want to mention before going over that is the smartboard can independent functionally. I'd like to think of this as more of a tablet than a smartboard, just because of all the different functions and features that it offers. But if you are trying to pull something up from your desktop or your laptop, what you're going to do is you're going to go to this icon here. It's the little square with the arrow pointing to the right. When you do that, you should have all of these different options to choose from. Currently, my device is set up with the HDMI 3, so if I go ahead and click on this, it's going to take me to my desktop computer that this is plugged into. And so you can see here, and I'm going to move off to the side, that now my desktop device is what is being used. Now, one thing that I do want to walk you through, because this will likely happen to you as you're using your desktop computer, is we might want to play around with the settings, because currently I have my desktop computer over here to the left, and then I have the display over here, so it's acting as two different screens. Some of you may like that so that you can have your smartboard working as an additional screen, and then you have another monitor so that you can work on both of those. However, some of you might want your screen that's showing up in front of you to be the screen that you want to be displayed. And so what we can do is I'm going to pull up my settings here. So if you don't know how to pull up settings, just search settings. And then we're going to go to our system. We're going to go to display. And then over here, you're going to see this little drop-down menu. So currently I have my desktop here, and then this is the smartboard over here too. I can change this extend display option to just be duplicate these displays. And so then I'll go ahead and hit keep changes. And so now I can have both whatever's on my screen here be also up on the smartboard. So totally user preference there, but something that some of you might want to adjust depending on how you're going to be using your smartboard. I also do want to point out here, and I'll kind of move the camera a little bit to do this. So you can see over here on the side of the board these different cables. And so if you had a student teacher that was going to use their device for the day, they could plug in both the HDMI cable as well as the USB-B into their device, and that's going to allow them to have both their display up there as well as be able to use the different touch settings for the smartboard. Alright, so we just talked about how we can change the input. The next thing that I want to walk us through is how we can screen mirror. But before we do that, easiest way to get back to just our general smartboard is to go ahead and just hit this home button, and that should take us back here. And again, that input setting here is where we can go back and forth. Your smartboard's always going to be that Android icon to choose from. But what we're going to do next is this smart mirroring app. So for our apps, those are located right here in that waffle menu. And so when you go here, mine is at the top. I would assume it's going to be very similar to yours, but it's a purple app with kind of two squares going against each other. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that. Screen mirroring is going to allow you to do is whether it be your device that you want to mirror on the screen, so that could be your smartphone, that could be your laptop, that could be your desktop computer, or an even better option is if you want to display students' work on the board. This is a very easy way for you to do so. So you would go to this smartmirror.link, whichever device you want to mirror on the screen. So I'm going to pop off to the side here and use my desktop computer for this. And then whoever is the person that's going to mirror, they're going to type in that code on the website. So they would type that in, and it's very straightforward. I'll show you what it looks like here in just a second. And then it'll also ask them to display their name. Before I connect to that, I always encourage people to look at the settings, right? And just take a look at those. So for example, you might want to change some of those session managements. Moderator mode, this will prevent someone from just displaying their screen. That's going to allow you to have kind of a say on who gets to display it. It allows you to approve that display before it pops up. As well as extended grids, that's going to allow up to 9 screens to be shared up here at once. But for just this video, we're going to go ahead and close out of the settings here. And then I'm going to go ahead and join with my screen mirroring. So I'll hit connect. And then you can see here, because I have that moderator mode, it has participants. I can go ahead and click my name and hit invite. And then on my screen over here, if I hit share my screen, it should pop up. And so now you can see what is going on my desktop computer. When I'm done sharing, I can hit stop presenting. This works really well, especially if you have a smartphone. I know that I'll use this in my class for digital media when we're trying to have students get videos from maybe their phone to their drive, showing them how they can do this here so that they can do that at home. But there's a lot of different functionalities of this application that you can use. But again, smart mirroring is going to allow you to show whatever screen it is that you want, whether that be from a device, a smartphone, a tablet. Another skill I want to walk you through on the smartboard here is how you can do a split screen. So if you're using your desktop computer, it's very easy to split the screen, but if you wanted to use the smartboard itself, right, there's a way that we can do that in here. And so I'm going to just pull up YouTube. I have an app already set up for that. And I'm just going to give an example that I might do for my belt class, but we might have a YouTube video up here, and then I have a set of questions that students are answering, and I want both of those to be displayed at the same time. So what I could do is if I go down here to this little square with two lines off to the right, it's going to pull up this, and then it can allow me to take a screenshot, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this split option, and then I already have my Google Doc pulled up with my questions on it, and so now I have my video here and my questions here, and then I can resize this as needed. So if I want my video to be slightly larger so that students can see a little bit better, and then maybe make it full screen, I have that split screen feature here to make life just a little bit easier for them. So hopefully that's another tool that can benefit you in your classroom if needed. Again, that is going to be that split screen option just down here, that little square with two lines next to it. Another item that I wanted to share with you is how you can add bookmarks to your smart board to access quickly in your class when you need them. So if we go down here, I have my Chrome icon, and I've already pulled up the website here. I use this for my business class when we're talking about the stock market, but let's say I knew that I needed to access this website throughout the week and wanted to be able to access it quickly. I would go ahead and just go to the site that I would like to bookmark, and then from there, if I go up to the three dots here at the top, we have all these different options to choose from. We're going to go ahead and hit Add to Home Screen, and then you can rename that if you want. I'm going to go ahead and just add it here, and we're going to go ahead and hit Add to Home Screen. We'll go ahead and hit our Home button, and then that should be popping up here at the top left. And then if I wanted to move that over to some of where my other bookmarks are, again, we just hold down on that and we can move it to the location that we desire it to go to. So that's going to allow you to bookmark websites, and then again, you can pull those up quickly. If I wanted to pull up my class website, I could click that. I have that source that I just used there, and again, it just pulls it up immediately on your screen. I want to show you in this video here is how you can add applications to your home screen on your smartboard. So what you'll do is you'll go down to this waffle icon. This is our apps selection, and then you're going to see a variety of different apps in here. You'll also notice that there's not every app that is available, and that is because the district is overseeing what apps can be put on the board. And so they're willing to add in apps. They just need to abide by those SOPA guidelines. But if you don't see an app on here that you would like, you would just need to fill out a help desk ticket, and then that should allow you to be able to potentially get those apps on there. We're going to take a look, though, at just the ones that we have here. So if there was an app that stood out that you knew, hey, I'm going to be using this frequently, it would be nice to have on my board. All you need to do is you can click on that app, you can drag it out here, and then you can place it wherever you would like it to be on your home screen and rearrange that as needed. If you ever want to remove an app, it's super simple. You're just going to click, hold down, and then drag that up here to the remove option, and that will get rid of the app on your screen. All right, the next item I want to share with you is your smart tools. So if you look next to your profile here, you have this little toolbox icon. If we click it, it's going to pull up this menu here. This is where you can set up your document camera. If you want to take a screen capture of something, you can do that here. Record a screen, I'm going to walk you through how that works in just a second here, as well as some other different options, but gives you a lot of just different tools that you can work with. One function that I think a lot of teachers can benefit from and use this semester and next semester is this record screen option. So if I click this here, I'm going to make sure that I change my settings so that it picks up my audio as well as shows my different touches on the screen. And then if I go ahead and hit start here, up in the top, it's hard to see, but it goes 3, 2, 1. It's going to give me a countdown and then turn to red. Once it's red, I know that it's recording here. For this example, I'm just going to pull up a whiteboard. And so let's say you're a math teacher and trying to teach a concept, whether it's for students that have missed the class and you want to create a recording for them, or something to put out on your Google Classroom. This is a really easy way to do that. And so you could walk students through how to solve a problem or whatever subject area you're in. You could use the screen and just kind of do a voiceover as you're touching. And then when you're finished with that, all you'll do is you'll go back to that tool box and then go ahead and hit record screen one more time. That red dot should disappear. And then you might be asking yourself, well, where does that video go? It goes into your files. So if we go down here to our file option, you'll probably have recent up here. But what you'll want to go down to is videos. Click movies, and this should have all of your screen captures in here. You can always click and select these and move these to a different location. Maybe you want to set up your drive and move them there so that it's a little bit easier to find them. But that's going to allow you to take a screen recording of your smartboard, and just an awesome feature to have with these new boards. Another new technology to Unit 5 this semester is Lumio. Lumio is a digital learning tool used to create and deliver interactive, collaborative lessons for students. It transforms static content into engaging learning experiences, allowing for both in-class and remote learning. Lumio is designed to enhance student engagement and simplify teaching for educators. Lumio has the ability to take existing lessons and make them more collaborative. It looks to utilize tools like gamification and emphasize real-time assessment and diverse multimedia content within its interactive presentations. We are just going to scratch the surface with Lumio today, but I imagine more trainings or information will be coming as we progress this semester. The first thing that I want to talk to you about this site, when you go there, you can just do a quick Google search for Lumio. It should also be linked on just a variety of different district resource pages, and I'll try to include that in the slides here if you want to take a look at it. But if you go to the sign in and click teacher, you should go there. You should already have signed in to Lumio. You might not have done anything with the website, but signing into that prior to using your smartboard, just because we'll talk here in a minute, that is where all your files will be located that you do on the board. But once we are here, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. And then again, like I said, we're going to probably dive deeper into this at a later date. You're going to notice at the top here these different libraries. So you'll have your library, and yours is empty most likely if you haven't done anything in Lumio or on your smartboard, but you can see I have a couple of items here as I've played around with it. You also have your shared libraries. So this is where the district will house a variety of different resources, and they have it nicely organized if we scroll down here where you can see it by grade level. And then I'm sure they will eventually have just more folders in there by content area. You also have the Lumio library, where if you're looking for resources, this would be an excellent place to go, where you could simply search kind of the subject you're looking for, grade level, and the topic you're looking for, the grade that you're interested in, and then the subject area that you're hoping to find. You also have your class sessions. So as you start to dive into Lumio, all of your information about those sessions will be stored here. Again, yours is blank, but as you play around with this, or as you have students that use it, This is going to allow you to go back in and see whether it be data from some of the assessments you might have had, or just to look at that session to see the different participants, things like that, is an excellent tool. We're going to go back into my library, and what I want to kind of conclude with our Lumio is just taking a look at some of the features and some of the things that you can do. So if I hit plus new, this is going to take me to creating new content, but you could also, if you wanted to, import a file. And so move this out of here so you can see better. Sorry. You can see on here, you can upload anything from your Google Drive or your library. So if you had an existing, slides presentation that you wanted, you could pull that up here. They have noted to us in the trainings that to encourage staff to make sure that you use the editable version. When you're doing that, it's just going to make life easier for you. But if you go to this new that I went to and then jump back to, you can see a lot of these different options. So whether it be like adding in a YouTube video, or you want to make this similar to kind of like a slides where you can add a new page. It's very simple and very straightforward. It also has Desmos there, which I know is good for graphing, and then some of these interactive simulations here, whether you be are a math teacher and you're looking to do something with fractions just to help those visual learners, or maybe getting them up to the board and practicing this to help those kinesthetic learners that you have in your class. But there's a variety of different just interactive activities, not just for math. There's science on there, as well as some other subject areas. And then a couple of other items that I think will benefit just staff here is, some of these like game-based activities where, you might do some matching or fill in the blanks to make sure that students are, understanding the vocab, but making it a little bit more fun through gamification options there. And then I'm going to go back in just to kind of wrap up here. You also have the ability on here to create some responses, right? So this would allow for you to have some formative assessments within your lesson, and that data gets saved. So, we can get rid of some of those paper and pen, exit slips at the end of class. You can have it on here where students are filling that out, and now you have everything neatly organized. You can see where students are understanding, and then going into the next class period, have a better game plan of, what you need to do to make sure that students are understanding the material. But again, there's a lot to unpack in this site. I'm not doing justice to it in the short time that I've kind of explained it to you, but there should be some more trainings on Lumio, and hopefully you can maybe play around a little bit with it and find some benefits for your particular classroom. Thank you for taking time to watch today's video. I hope you found the information helpful. If you have any questions about your smartboard, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. You can also refer to the CJHS Smartboard Questions document, which is linked in the presentation slides.